as the Saints signed Derek Carr to a 4-year, $150 million deal, including $100 million in total guarantees. Is Derek Carr good enough to turn the Saints into contenders? And Zach, if you want to do the honors to kick us off, by all means.
Yeah, Will. So it was great to get the first domino of the offseason to fall, really, with Derek Carr going to the New Orleans Saints. And I think right off the bat, it is a fit that makes a lot of sense, right? I'll start off by saying this. I want to give Derek Carr some props for recognizing that New York might not have been the best situation for him. I think it's a big market. He doesn't play well in the cold. I'm a big Derek Carr fan. I think he's a top 12, top 13 quarterback in the league. And I do think playing indoors in a dome in the NFC South, which appears to be a wide open division right now, the fit off the bat does make a lot of sense. And I do think Derek Carr in a big market, there was a big gap going from Oakland and Vegas to New York. And even though I do think this Jet team is really good and they might just be a quarterback away, I don't think Derek Carr was the right fit. I think the Saints were a better fit than the Jets, so I'll give him credit for recognizing that. But I don't necessarily know what this means for the Saints because, look, they paid him a lot of money, 4-year deal. He's going to be their starting quarterback for the foreseeable future. And there are some key components to this team on paper you like, right? You have Alvin Kamara at running back, even though his future and his start to next season might be in question. You have Chris Olave, a really good young wide receiver. But I want to circle back to why they have Chris Olave. They gave up their first-round pick last year to trade up and get Chris Olave like they were a player away. And the issue was, I just think when Sean Payton retired, they should have realized that as an opportunity to say, you know what? We had a great run with Sean Payton and Drew Brees, but we're in salary cap hell. We have to rebuild. We have a lot of old parts on this roster. It might be time to just move on in a different direction, but they're trying to keep and patch this roster together. And there are some key components, and I understand it because the NFC South is wide open. But I think the Falcons, the Buccaneers, the Panthers, all three of those teams are going to look significantly different when we get to week one, opposed to how they look now. And right now, it's easy to say the Saints are the favorite to win the NFC South. You know, they have Derek Carr as their quarterback, who's clearly the best quarterback in the division. But I want to see what the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Buccaneers do at quarterback as well before we make any grand conclusions. Because right now, I still view this division and this really entire NFC conference is wide open.
Zay?
Yeah, I think I was surprised by the news when the Saints pulled the trigger and signed Derek Carr. Not because I didn't think he was going to go there. I said it. I thought he was going to go in the NFC. I thought that was like the destination for him. I just believe that there was other teams that could have really fit and utilize his skill set to the best of their advantage. Tampa Bay, once they got rid of once Tom Brady retired, I thought Derek Carr would be that guy that they will at least reach out to or try to bring over. They got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin over there. They have weapons on that offense. If you brought in and patched in Derek Carr in Tampa Bay, I thought that team could have easily still been the top in the division. Also could have been strong, serious contenders in the NFC. I thought the Atlanta Falcons, another team that needs a quarterback, I thought they have a very young talent, Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Cordell Patterson. They have a lot of weapons out there. If you're missing a quarterback and you don't have full faith in Desmond Ridder being the guy right away, Derek Carr right there, you put him in that quarterback position. And I don't know if like the conflict would have been years or not, but we still trying to see if Arthur Smith is that coach that could really put that Falcons offense over the top, and maybe Derek Carr and that offense would have been fantastic. I think the Saints, once Sean Payton left, as Zach alluded to, and it hasn't been the same offense. They try to patch in these different quarterbacks. They try to do the Taysom Hill project same way that Sean Payton did. It just hasn't worked. And I think the main reason why is because the receivers outside of Chris Olave, who was spectacular last year, have a hard time creating separation in short windows and short spans. So teams stack the box. They force, I guess, essentially the pass. They want the Saints to throw the football. And they get to the quarterback fairly quickly if Alvin Kamara is not getting the football. Even if Alvin Kamara is getting the football, they're getting to him right away because all the holes are plugged in. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens now with Derek Carr as the starting quarterback in the Saints. This was the division that I felt like whatever team he went to would be the favorites to win a division. Bearing any updates that happen, if some team in the division winds up getting a quarterback that may look like a better fit, that could compete with the Saints, I'll see. But I think the Saints are a great fit for this team, for Derek Carr. I think, their defense has been stout the last couple of years, even after Sean Payton. Defense was top 10 in I believe, ninth in points allowed. And I think Derek Carr, all he needs to do is plug himself in and be that quarterback to make the throws. The only question is, are they going to ask more of Derek Carr? And that's something that we've seen in his career have trouble with in Raiders, doing more than what he's supposed to do, what's on the job description. It's not going to be just throwing a football. He may have to be a leader in his locker room. He may have to be wear a lot of different hats on his team, maybe even freestyle. There's going to be a lot of different components to this offense that Derek Carr may not be equipped to handling on his Saints offense, just due to the fact that once Sean Payton went, everything with the offense was at one point went with him.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know this is probably the wrong time to bring this up. I probably should have brought this up in the intro, but salute to my niece, Ariana. Today was her 18th birthday, and she's gonna be going off to college soon. So man, these kids, man, they get older by the day, man. It's crazy. But I just want to salute to her and give her a shout out here on 99 Pod. Now, let me pick up where y'all left off. To answer the question, no, I don't think they are contenders. Now, I do agree that they should be the favorite to win the division. But Zay, you said you were surprised that Derek Carr signed with the Saints. In hindsight, thinking about it, I'm not surprised, right? Because they actively pursued him. They showed that they wanted Derek Carr. Derek Carr was in a situation where he just got released by a team that he gave his all to in the Raiders, Las Vegas Raiders, right? And the fact that the Saints were the only team that I know of that were pursuing him to the extent that they want to make him the long-term answer. That long-term security is why he's on this team and not the Jets. The Jets was too busy making him into a little side chick over there. I want Aaron Rodgers, so I'm going to still compliment you so you can stay a free agent, so you can wait on us, right? You're going to be a Hall of Famer if you join us. All the little words to keep him settled without picking a team so they can see what Aaron Rodgers is up to. All right, Jets, keep falling around. You're going to end up with Jacoby Brissett as your quarterback. And don't convince me that team is a playoff team with Jacoby Brissett, respectfully. It's not. So go ahead, fall around all you want. Try to see if Aaron Rodgers asks for a trade. Maybe he does. I don't know. Who knows with Aaron Rodgers? But keep playing that game. The Saints got their quarterback, the quarterback that they wanted for the long term. And that's what Derek Carr wanted, that long-term security. Now, both of y'all mentioned Sean Payton. I'm glad y'all did. Now I could talk about him earlier. Because to be honest with you, the situation that he ran away from is actually better than the current situation he's at. Especially in the short term, maybe in the long term as well, right? Think about the Broncos right now. Think about all the talent in the AFC. I'm glad Derek Carr chose to go to the NFC, and particularly this division, NFC South. He made a very great business choice and career choice for his career. Now, back to Sean Payton, right? He's on the Broncos, AFC. You got Herbert, you got Mahomes in your division, right? Let's go to the conference. Lamar Jackson, who knows what happens with him, but he's still there. Deshaun Watson, still there. Kenny Pickett, Zach is a big fan. He's still there. You got all these quarterbacks in the AFC. Joe Burrow. Why did I not mention his name first? You got Josh Allen. All them quarterbacks there. You really mean to tell me that Sean Payton's going to win a chip? It's not happening. I'm not saying he would have won a chip here. But guess what? If they win a division, the Saints, home playoff game right off the rip. Home playoff game right off the rip. And Derek Carr right now is probably the fourth or fifth best quarterback in the entire NFC. Literally. So the situation that he ran away from, the cap situation, because I'm not going to lie, the Saints have done an amazing job for the short term, right? It's probably going to come back to bite them in the long term by manipulating the cap because they've been in salary cap hell, and yet they were still able to add talent to the roster and now add Derek Carr with this contract. So they are manipulating the cap, and that's something that Sean Payton underestimated why he escaped from this situation to end up on a worse situation with a quarterback who's severely overpaid and who's shot at this point in his career. They think they're going somewhere. I bet you will come back on the show and say the Broncos is still last in that division. I'll bank on it, especially if the Raiders don't get a quarterback. I'll bank on that. So I say that to say that Derek Carr made the right choice to go to the Saints. They wanted him. It's an easier path to get into the playoffs, have a home game, potentially contend. But I don't think they are contenders. I think they are a team that put themselves in a predicament to win the South. And somebody has to win the South. Somebody. These four teams cannot tank. You cannot tank in the worst division of football. The Buccaneers' most tradable assets come with a cap hit. Decide to trade Mike Evans, cap hit. Chris Godwin, cap hit. One of the players on defense, cap hit. So they stuck. They could have went after Derek Carr and convinced him to take a pay cut there. I agree, Zay. But they didn't. The Falcons, Arthur Smith is the most overrated coach in the NFL. Yeah, I said it. You heard it from me. Zach, I'll be prepared for you to shoot that down because I know you're Arthur Smith guy. I just got to be real with you. He hasn't done anything. You know, I'm the Panthers. They have a talented roster on defense. That's why they can't tank. So somebody had to win a division. And right now, it looks like the Saints are trying to win the division with this move.
So I want to give the Buccaneers credit for kind of recognizing the situation they're in, right? It's looking like they're going to go with like Kyle Trask and maybe a Drew Lock, like a veteran type at quarterback. And they're kind of recognizing with that, okay, we're in a very poor position with the salary cap. So we are just going to reload a little bit. It looks like, they still have some big decisions to be made, especially at the quarterback position. But I just feel like the Saints would have been better off going in that direction. And I understand it's hard to do that with the NFC, especially their own division, completely wide open. But I just think this team's window is closed. Like, I understand that Derek Carr really never had a good coach in Vegas and Oakland, and that's a big reason why he couldn't win a playoff game. He also got a terrible injury at the worst possible time, and the Raiders organization was just awful. They didn't do anything to really support him, and I get that. But when I look at the Saints team, and especially going into this year, it's a very short-term plan. Like, Dennis Allen is a huge concern for me. And I know that when you look at Derek Carr, he worked with Dennis Allen as a rookie, but that was 8 years ago for like 4 games. And then Dennis Allen got fired. And when I look at the Saints team, like, they have some pieces. I understand their division is wide open, but this is a huge risk. They're going all in with Derek Carr, and it does help they're in a dome. It does help their division looks wide open right now. But man, when I look at the Saints roster 1-53, like, division they're in aside, I'm not particularly impressed. And I don't know if Derek Carr is necessarily the missing piece that they're paying him to be the next 3 years. So it's going to be an interesting situation to follow. But it's interesting. I like the Panthers situation a little bit better. I think their defense is really good. I think they have some young players that are ready to win right now. They have some weapons as well. Young offensive line that's still developing. They have a coach in Frank Reich. We'll see what they do now. It's looking like maybe they're going to draft a young quarterback, but definitely this division is 4 wide open quarterbacks going into the offseason, and here's the first one.
I want to just, because I didn't even answer the question initially, right? With does Derek Carr turn the Saints into contenders? And, when you look at the NFC and how the team, everyone is basically set up now, you could say they probably are contenders, because if you look at the Eagles, who just went to the Super Bowl, they have to sign a lot back on defense. Their entire defense left. Like, they're not signed yet. Their offensive coordinator is gone, defensive coordinator gone, their assistant to the offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators are gone. So they have a lot to sign back and to rejuvenate that locker room. I understand Jalen Hurts is there. Their offense is still intact, but their defense was their bread and butter. Their defense was the ones that were keeping them in a place where they could go up 30, 40 points because they were able to get the turnovers. They was able to create pressure and do all these different things. They have a lot of guys who they need to sign back in that NFC East. In the NFC West, you got the 49ers, got a lot of questions over there at quarterback. Or Seattle, are they signing back Geno? Are they not? The Rams, is Stafford going to be healthy? Is Cooper Kupp going to be healthy? The Cardinals, I'm not going to even talk about them because they're not even a thought of. Right? They're not even a thought right now. So it's the NFC is open. It's not the same NFC that was the last 2 years where like you had teams that were powerhouses. Like, all right, we could see a lot going on here, but you could make the argument that with Derek Carr, if he comes in playing at the level that we all know Derek Carr could play at a high level, a team that you get to move the ball down the chains, and the Saints playing defense, you can make the argument that their ceiling is maybe NFC championships because their team is set. Their defense is stacked, and all they need is a quarterback to move the chains and get points on the board. And if Derek Carr is capable of doing that, then you could make the argument that they could be contenders. There's a possibility because everywhere else in the NFC is not solidified. Like Commanders, if they get a quarterback, they could be contenders. If the 49ers get, if they get solidified and Brock Purdy's coming back full season, fully healthy, they could possibly be contenders. Like the NFC is open. There's no guarantee solidified contender, number one contender to go to Super Bowl in the NFC. So the Saints with Derek Carr, you can make the argument, yeah, they are contenders in that NFC.
I do want to say this because I think, Zay, you made some valid points in your last lap. The NFC is underwhelming, and there are a lot of underachievers there. And that's why I called the Eagles one fraudulent, and I really mean by that. Listen, I'm not taking that back, bro. I'm just not. Like, think about it. Like, the Packers had 2 seasons in one. They were able to struggle, be 4-8 at one point, almost make the playoffs, winning in situation. Could have made the playoffs, win the game at home, right? You saw the Giants have a tale of 2 seasons where they go on the streak, then they end up the season 3-8, but yet they're still in the playoffs. You had the Commanders, tale of 2 seasons where they start off terrible under Carson Wentz, I think 0-3 or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong, but it was like a turbulent season. They almost had a shot. The Vikings, they had a very interesting stat where the negative and positive differential, and yet they had a home playoff game, right? So it's so underwhelming, and there's nothing here so far that makes me say the NFC is going to be better than the underwhelming NFC of last year. So you do have a point. Somebody has to come out. Somebody got to contend with the 49ers, who has quarterback issues. Somebody has to contend with the Eagles, right? Otherwise, the Eagles run gonna be fraudulent again, bro. Okay, I'm gonna just leave it like that, because who here is competing? Like, that's why I'm just like, yeah, in a way, you could say so, but I'm gonna say no, because I think right now their ceiling is a division. But then again, who knows what happens in this NFC?
Yeah, I just think there's so many questions that need to be answered. Like, I'll feel much better having this conversation at the end of the season, which is why I think the move the Saints made, like, they were like, okay, we're all in with Derek Carr. And from that aspect, if you want to give them credit for just finding their quarterback and going with it, I understand it. But I just don't think the NFC, I think it's impossible for the NFC to be as bad and as down as it was last year. I think a lot of things went wrong for a lot of teams in particular. And there are always guys that could get better. Like, we have the draft coming up too. Like, did anyone expect the Giants or the Seahawks to make the playoffs? No. And they're going to be teams like that again next year. So even though we might view the NFC as a little bit down right now, and obviously a lot of teams are still looking for their quarterbacks, let's have this conversation at the end of the offseason, even though obviously the Saints just made the move. We're looking at it from the current perspective.
And my last point, and then I'm officially done, is that it took 9 wins to win this division last year with the Buccaneers. I'm looking at that same threshold. And guess what? The Buccaneers had a home playoff game. Okay, and who knows what can happen. So I'm not mad at Derek Carr's choice to go to the Saints, and we'll see what happens with them going forward.
Please like and subscribe for all the up-to-date content. You've been slinging shows left and right, slinging content left and right. Please don't miss anything. If you do, like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a question, something you may want to answer, something you may have. All ideas are great ideas. Nothing's a dumb question.